Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Kristen Carroll, and I'm a manager on the workforce programs team here at the Partnership for Public Service. If you are not familiar with the partnership, we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that is committed to building a better government and a stronger democracy. We do that through policy advocacy, leadership development, workforce programming, and also through convening leaders across organizations and sectors. The most tangible impact we've seen through our support for the federal workforce is by sharing resources, providing plain language explainers, and amplifying the stories of the incredible work that federal employees do for our country every single day. So thank you very much for your service. I do want to share a few notes before we get into the content for today's conversation. So throughout this webinar, feel free to submit questions anonymously through the Q&A function, and we will do our best to answer those as time allows. Given the complexity and the nuances of the topics that we discuss, we may not be able to address every question or the specific circumstances that might come up. But we will continue to hold these FedSupport conversations on a regular basis and may dig into some of your questions in a future convening. If you miss any talking points or you want to come back to this conversation, just know that this recording will be available to you as well as all of our previous webinars through our FedSupport Hub. And Sam will share that in the chat with you. So the Hub not only contains our webinar recordings, but also houses other critical information to help support the federal workforce amid today's changing climate. Before we dive in, I do want to share more about myself and my professional background. So I've been with the partnership for 1 year, but prior to that, I spent 12 years in higher education, specializing in career development and employer relations. And through that work, I've hosted over 200 networking or professional development events. I've met with employers across industries, and I've helped students and alumni prepare their professional materials. More recently with the partnership, I've gotten to support a lot of our FedSupport work, which I enjoy so much. And also assisted with our Career Pivot Bootcamp course, which if you're not familiar with that, we will share more about that later on. I'm also myself an AI user, and as the partnership launched an internal AI usage policy earlier this year of figuring out ways that I can integrate AI into my work here for better optimization. And with that, I'm joined by my colleague, Katy Hogan. Katy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. Welcome, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon. My name is Katy Hogan, and I'm a director of workforce programs here at the Partnership for Public Service. I'm specifically focused on early career talent, and I've been here for over 3 years. I'll mention that similar to Kristen, before joining the partnership 3 years ago, I spent nearly a decade in higher education, working at a university to provide students and alumni with career coaching and advising. So I did that both individually and in groups, but I'm really skilled in resume review, writing cover letters, conducting a job search, preparing for an interview, navigating a salary negotiation. So all things general career development. I really enjoy talking about it, and I'll do my best to share all the gems that I've gathered along the way in my career. But just thank you all for being here tonight. I'm excited to talk about this topic with you. Welcome your questions, and I'll send it back to Kristen.
Thank you, Katy. And before we move forward, I also want to introduce my colleague, Sam, who will be helping us out. You may hear from him in the chat, sharing resources, and he'll also help parse through any questions that you may have this evening so we can address them. So with that, we'll move into our topic, which is timely and I think for many people can be intimidating. And that is, how can I ethically and effectively use AI in my job search? So you might already be using AI either personally or for your job search. Tools like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini. Or you might have heard conflicting advice about whether you should be using AI at all throughout your life. So our goal tonight is to help you feel more confident and more informed in understanding AI, how to use it thoughtfully and effectively. I also want to note that we are light on slides this evening, and a lot of our content will actually be demoing ChatGPT for you and having really practical, real-time examples about how to incorporate it into your search. So by the end of this session, we hope that you will gain just a better understanding of what AI is and how it works, big picture guidance on the ethical and responsible use of AI, a framework for how to use AI to support your search, of course, that live demo that I just referenced, and then time for questions. So let's get started with what is generative AI. You hear this term a lot. Let's pause and define it. So generative AI refers to tools like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini that are creating new content based on prompts that you are giving it. It is not a search platform, so it is not, a Google or a similar site. ChatGPT and other generative AI platforms are generating original responses from learned patterns and large amounts of data. So you might have heard the term large language model, or LLM. That refers to a model that has been trained on a huge amount of text and are designed for language processing and language generation. So generative AI tools are large language models. There are also other AI tools that may generate video components or images, but for tonight, we'll be focused on language creation. So depending on what you ask a tool, the output could be a list, it could be a paragraph, it could be a conversation, it could be a resume bullet or interview questions. Personally, I think AI can be really helpful for getting unstuck in those moments where you just need some help with brainstorming or you have a bit of writer's block. And recently, I'm happy to share a few ways that I've been using AI professionally. So drafting emails that have step-by-step instructions. I am currently supervising an intern, and what makes sense to me might not immediately make sense to her. So I want to make sure I'm being a supportive supervisor, my instructions are clear. So if I have a very dense email with a lot of guidance and step-by-step tips in it or steps, I will put that into ChatGPT and just ask it, is this clear? If you are an intern with minimal context, do you have what you need to move this project forward? Is anything missing? And it's just great to spot check the content that I've created. Another recent example, using it to build out a description of a professional development session. I was working with an external partner. I had crafted about 2 to 3 quick bullet points about this program. And they asked for more. Can you tell me more about this session so we can use it in promotional emails? I was tight on time. I took to ChatGPT. I gave it those 2 bullets that I had already generated, a bit more quick context, and asked it, can you build out a more thoughtful, well-rounded description of this program? Took that, made my own edits, and then was able to send that off with a faster turnaround time. And then a third way I really enjoy using it is for complex Excel formulas. I often find like Googling or using a search engine to find specific Excel formulas, it can be hard to find exactly what you're looking for. And I have better results with ChatGPT if I just give it, exactly what I'm trying to parse out. I don't give it the spreadsheet itself, which is an important note, but just what I'm trying to parse out from the data. And it's been really helpful for that. So just a few ideas, but of course our focus today is to talk about how you can use it in your job search. So within that context, I think ChatGPT or another AI tool is great when you're trying to align your resume with a job description. We all know that keywords are so important in making sure that our materials are aligned with the job. And that is a great way if you upload the job description and the resume into ChatGPT to make sure that those keywords are aligned. And that is something that we will demo. Brainstorming how to communicate your skills in a cover letter or an interview. We will also demo those as well. Practicing your response to interview questions, helping you generate interview questions. So you could feed a job description into an AI tool and ask it, what interview questions might you ask for this role? And then general career exploration. There are so many opportunities that you might be interested in exploring, and it can be overwhelming. It's hard to know where to start and what all of the options are. So AI can be a great starting point for just getting ideas on what is even possible based on your professional background and skill set. I do want to emphasize, and this is something we'll return to often, that AI is a starting point and should never be a final product. So you should always be bringing your voice, your tone, your editing eye to whatever it is that AI is generating for you. And when it comes to a job search, AI should be thought of as just one tool in your toolbox. It is not the stopping point or the end point. Like I mentioned, it can be a great way to get through that writer's block, but it should never be the final edit on what you're writing. And the human element of career development is really important. And we hope that that will never be fully replaced. So you are here tonight with real humans. Katy and I are not AI career coaches. And we assume and hope that you also have that human interaction with folks to support your career journey, whether that's through networking, professional events, informational interviews, conferences, one-on-one career coaching, because AI really can't replace how valuable those interactions are. But what AI can do is to help you prepare for those interactions. It can help strengthen and enhance your materials, and it can help you think about your career differently, especially when you are feeling stuck. It can help you get unstuck. So with all of that framing and context in mind, I'm going to pass it to Katy, who is going to lead us through a quick poll.
Thanks, Kristen. Yes, this is Katy again, human, not AI generated. So perhaps you've had a long day. Perhaps we need to wake up a little bit. So we thought it would be fun to do a mentee poll. This will just take a couple moments to get a better idea of who is with us on this webinar. And we have almost 140 people, which is really exciting. This is totally anonymous and totally optional. But I want to give everyone a moment. You can grab the QR code using your phone. You can go to mentee.com and enter this 8-number code. So I'll just give everyone a second. It's always fun to see where folks are joining from, and we have a few other questions too. All right, it looks like folks are joining. Love all the thumbs up and enthusiasm. Okay, so I think we can go ahead and launch the poll, Sam. All right, we're starting the mentee. So where are you joining us from this evening? Where are you joining us from? Ooh, got some folks from the South, Pacific Northwest, Colorado, Virginia. Do I see Illinois, Oregon? Wow. Okay, cool. We kind of got a wide spread. This is awesome. And I'll just say good afternoon to those folks on the West Coast. All right, this is pretty cool. Welcome, everybody. It's really good to have you wherever you're joining us from. This is great. We're in great company. This spans the entire United States. Very cool. Very cool. I was just in Pennsylvania this weekend for a conference. I see a couple folks from that way. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you. We'll go to the next question. So explain in 3 words or less how you use AI. And I'm really curious. What are you using AI for? And if you're not using it yet at all, you can say that. Never used it before. I do not. I'm so glad you're here. We're going to talk about it. Yeah, making writing stronger, cover letters, brainstorming. I love it. I always say it's like your collaborator and brainstorming, drafting stuff. Yep. Make things easier. I know. So I'm really wordy. I talk too much. Anyone on my team or like my friends will tell you that. Sometimes I like take an email where I've just put it all out there and I'm like, help me make this more succinct. Or like, what are my 2 key points? Yeah, this is great. And for those, and you're in good company, for those that haven't gotten started yet, I hope today provides you a pathway to do so if you'd like. Yeah, it's a great way to generate ideas. I love that. It's a good starting point. Okay, we'll go to the next question. How comfortable do you feel using AI? Are you very comfortable, somewhat comfortable, not at all comfortable? Yeah. Okay, we have somewhat comfortable is winning out, and I have a pretty even split there with the very and the not at all, and both are okay. Okay, wonderful. Okay, we're going to meet everyone where they are. This is great. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you all for that. It's always, I'm really partial to that United States map question because it's just so fun and so cool to see where all of you are joining us from. So thank you again, wherever you're calling in from. And hopefully this will be an importantly exciting and helpful evening for all of you, no matter where you are. So, okay, I'm just going to talk about some big picture considerations really quickly. So again, it's just, and Kristen's already said this, but you're going to hear it again. It's really important to be upfront and just say a good rule of thumb is that AI use is a starting point, and it's always really important that you do further research and verify anything that it generates. And I'll just tell you, I've seen it generate incorrect information. So it's a really good starting point. I always say it's a good kind of companion to get through some writer's block or when you're feeling stuck, but ultimately you're responsible for the final product. So it's really important to verify anything that it spits out. Okay, so just some quick ethical and environmental considerations for you. So first, and I've said this, you are ultimately responsible for anything you submit. So even if AI helped you construct a resume or a cover letter or anything, you are still the author. That is still your name. So if you wouldn't say it in real life, or if it just doesn't sound like something you would say, or if the formatting is off, or it just feels generic, you really want to revise it carefully. You can even ask yourself, does this actually sound like me? Is this something I would have written or said? Does this reflect my experience or what I'm trying to convey accurately? So just be really discerning because you are responsible for what you submit. Second, I already said it, AI makes mistakes. It is not perfect. So in relation to a job search, it might recommend roles that you aren't actually qualified for. It might give incorrect metrics or experience. It could provide outdated information. So again, you really want to think of it as a brainstorming partner, but it is not at all an infallible product. So you still want to check your facts. Third, we want to be aware that there is bias in AI. AI tools are trained on huge data sets, and those data sets can reinforce bias and stereotypes, and make biased assumptions or generate biased content. So you just want to be mindful of that. And if something feels off, definitely trust your gut and adjust accordingly. Fourth, you want to know your employer or your potential employer's policies. So Kristen mentioned earlier in this webinar that the Partnership for Public Service has an internal AI policy. So Kristen and I, alongside our colleagues, went through an AI training. We have an AI policy that we very clearly follow. So it's really important that we know that when we use AI to complement our work here at the partnership. If you are applying to a prospective employer, it's also important to know if there are any AI policies, especially on the front end when you might be applying for a job there. So some employers are starting to include AI usage policies in their job postings. So if you see that, it's becoming more normal, I would say. And just be mindful of that. So if you see a note like, we do not accept AI generated application materials, I would respect that policy and not use AI for anything that I submit to that employer. Fifth consideration, and this should feel obvious, but I just want you all to stay safe. Don't share any personal information. So I would not enter any protected personal information like your social, even your home address, any financial information. There's no reason to enter any of that into an AI tool. You just want to stick with really general background and job search content only. And lastly, but importantly, we are learning that AI does have a considerable environmental impact that we wanted you to be aware of. So AI tools require a lot of power, which uses a significant amount of energy and water to run and cool the data centers. So while your individual use may be small, it's still worth being mindful. I think of it with the same intentionality as when I leave a room. I always try to turn the lights off, right? I try to be really intentional with how I use lights in my home. Think it's a good analogy for how you might be intentional with how much you use AI and when. Okay, so next we're going to talk about how to train AI to your voice and preferences, and you can do that. You can train AI. So if you've ever gotten an unhelpful response from AI, there's a good chance that the prompt was too vague. So do remember what it generates is only as good as what was prompted. The key is giving really clear instructions and enough context to get something that is useful to you back. I like this simple formula that you see here in bold. So think of it as a role that you were seeking, like the type of role you're seeking. The goal, add some context, and that's going to equal a better result. So for example, you might enter, act as a hiring manager. I'm applying for communications roles in the public sector. Based on my resume, what skills should I highlight to match this job description? Notice how this example gives the tool a really clear role, a specific task, and the right context. You can also refine the results as you go. So the first prompt you put in does not have to be the last one. In fact, it probably shouldn't be. So after generating an initial response, you can prompt the tool to things like, can you make this sound more concise? Can you use more action-oriented language? I want this to sound more conversational and less formal. AI can learn from your feedback and hopefully improve future responses. So next, we are actually going to stop the slide deck, take some questions, and then we're going to demo AI, which is why you're all here. But before we do that, what questions do you all have? And I'm going to take a moment to look at the Q&A. Yeah, so I see one question came in that I think we addressed, but I'm happy to reinforce it. What to do if a job specifically states that you should not use generative AI? One of our participants tonight said they have seen that occasionally, including on a NASA job ad. So absolutely, just what we said. So be mindful of that, be on the lookout for that. And when it says that, I would not submit any materials that you use generative AI to support completing them. You want to be mindful of the policy. Kristen, anything to add?
No, I think that covers it.
Next question we got. I have heard recruiters can spot AI generated cover letters. How do I tailor the AI letter before submitting if I have limited time? I'll just note, I have a friend, former Fed on the job search, and it was a useful and productive and helpful conversation, but they did have a recruiter share with them that they could tell that they used AI. So I know that the time piece is really tricky. I think now, if you do have time to write a baseline cover letter, so if you use AI, do what we said before, like go through and interrogate all of it. Read it out loud. I know that might sound a little uncomfortable, but ask yourself, would I really say it this way? Is this really how I describe my work? Is this how I would craft it, right? And you might not even ask AI to write your cover letter. You might write a cover letter and then ask AI to help you again, like make it more concise, or how can I better align it with this job description? So maybe it's not even that you have it make the starting point, you make the starting point and then help it ask it to help you make refinements, specify it, target it to that particular position. I know time's always tricky. So my strategy has always been to have baseline documents that I tweak, and I think you can use AI in the tweaking. And then again, I would read it out loud a couple of times and really make sure it's your voice before submitting it. Okay, we did have a question. Will we be sharing these slides? We actually post publicly and I believe share via email after with all registrants, but it'll be on our website, the recording for this. So it will be accessible information. Kristen, did we have any other questions come in?
So we have had a few questions related to how AI is used to screen resumes and other
Sure.
materials and how it can be biased. As we've mentioned, AI is biased, can be biased in general, but specifically a current lawsuit that is claiming bias and discrimination by Workday's AI technology in particular, which is definitely. I'll let you catch up, Katy. I am not familiar personally with that lawsuit, so I can't speak to that scenario. And it is challenging to know how individual employers are using AI to scan applications. So I think whenever you're able to have an interaction with a recruiter, with someone in HR, or to have an informational interview with someone who works at an organization you would like to work with, to ask them candidly, are you using AI to screen candidates? How are you using AI to screen candidates so that you can best position yourself and your materials to get through that first pass? When I hear AI used in reference to screening candidates, it's often to check for those keywords and specific skills and qualifications that they are looking for. I do hear you around it perhaps being discriminatory towards older employees. Something you could do, I know a lot of applications require you to put in years, years that you've held jobs, years that you graduated from, undergrad or graduate programs. To the extent possible, especially around education, if you can exclude those years, again, not being familiar with that scenario of the lawsuit, but that could be one way that we've coached folks to avoid age bias is by trying to remove any of those specific dates from your resume. Katie, anything you would want to add?
No, unfortunately, I'm also unfamiliar with the lawsuit, but I think what you shared is what I would share. So thank you. I am just looking through the questions. So thank you all for your patience. One question is it okay to feed your resume to ask AI to tailor it and keep all the information accurate based solely on the content of the resume? So I think if I understand this, I think it goes back to what we've talked about. So maybe there's a job posting and you put the job posting and the resume into AI and say, how would I tailor this resume to this position? And I think I would look at its responses. That was a really broad prompt, by the way. So taking my own advice, you'd want to make it more specific, of course. And I think you can take what it says, but I would personally make those tweaks myself. And again, like reading it out loud, making sure it's in my own voice, that it accurately describes what I did. AI doesn't really know, the culture of your line of work or your previous position or your office. So those little refinements, that's how I would use it. I wouldn't have it generate the resume, but I would ask it, how am I best aligned to this position? Or how would I craft this resume to be more targeted to this position? And then you like copy in the description. Um, Kristen, anything to add to that?
No, I agree, and happy to pull a few of these other questions. We want to.
I had one more I can get before turning it back over to you.
Okay.
So related to the if you see a job posting that asks you not to submit materials that use generative AI, and we stand by, you should listen to that. Someone submitted a very reasonable concern that using generative AI, once you do it, it's hard to go back. So for example, if you use it one time in a cover letter, of course, we all reuse cover letters and tweak them, that foundational cover letter used AI. So what I would personally say, though I'd love to hear from Kristen too, I would do what I was saying earlier, have that foundational cover letter that's like a high level, like this is who I am, this is my skill set, this is my brand and what I bring to a team, office, organization, whatever, and I would leave that one alone. Again, maybe you feed it into an AI tool with a job description and ask how you would tailor the cover letter, and then you can do that. But I would always have that original document that was not influenced and did not utilize AI. That way, if you do need to submit it, you can just pull from that one and only make your own non-AI edits. So I would have a resume and a cover letter that are like the originals. Kristen, what would you say?
Yes, exactly. We've also gotten a similar question about how is using AI not misrepresenting yourself, or that it feels like, someone else is writing your paper. I would think about it like if you were visiting a career coach, either at your university or maybe at the local library as a coach, they are going to mock up your resume and cover letter. They're going to give you feedback. They're going to suggest language changes. So I think as long as you are the one initiating that original resume, original cover letter, and then you're using AI for feedback, there is a way for it to still feel like yours. You're just getting suggestions for how to improve upon it or tailor it to a specific application. And always like reading it, and I will mention this later when we get into cover letters, but reading it out loud, like, does it sound like you? Is this a word you would actually use? And always going back in and editing it to get to that final product. And you, of course, like, you don't have to use AI, but if these are ways that you can explore it, see if it works for you, if it feels comfortable, and it might not, and that's okay too. I will answer a few others quickly, just about where do you find AI tools and are they free, and how do you know which one to use? So I believe most basic versions of AI tools are free. You can just, Google ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. You can Google and ask, for a list of generative AI tools. And then the advice that we've gotten from our colleagues who are AI experts is to try them out, because some tools and sites are better at different things. And it's really a matter of just finding the one that works for you. So I have only tried ChatGPT and Gemini. I would give them the same question and see how they responded. And I just personally preferred ChatGPT's responses. So it really is just like a personal preference of how the content is designed, the responses that it gives you, the tone, like how it stylistically is designed, the user experience, if you will. So with that, we will hopefully have time for questions at the end as well, but we are going to get into our ChatGPT demo. So Sam is going to pull up ChatGPT for us. Thank you, Sam. And if you have participated in our Career Pivot Bootcamp, you might remember Amelia. So Amelia is our fictional Fed. We created her as an example to talk through how to transfer a long, comprehensive federal resume into a one-page non-federal sector resume. And we have a whole backstory for her. So Amelia used her non-competitive eligibility status from the Peace Corps to enter into federal service. And she started as a GS-9 program analyst at FEMA and ended up as a GS-13 management and program analyst at Health and Human Services. So she is now pivoting her career into a non-federal role and has updated her resume from a lengthy federal resume into a concise one-page resume. If you are curious about how to transition your federal resume into a non-federal resume, I really encourage you to check out our free Career Pivot Bootcamp course. We will share the link to that in the chat. There's a whole module with PowerPoint and video to help guide you through that process. Just making sure. All right, we are getting our ChatGPT all set up. Perfect. So we are going to start off using Amelia's one-page resume to just conduct a brief skills assessment. So we're going to input this prompt. I lost my job due to the rifts in federal government. I'm searching for a new job. What are the top 5 transferable skills that show up on my resume? And we're going to attach Amelia's resume. This question did come up as well about whether you should scrub certain information from your resume. Again, Amelia is fictional, but I would suggest before uploading your resume into any AI tool that you're making sure that you delete off that, your email, phone number, address, any other personal information you might have on there. All right, so let's see what ChatGPT has given us. So as we asked, we had a very specific context and prompt for the tool, and it is giving us top 5 transferable skills. It's also showing us a bit where it got those, how it landed on those top 5 based on the specific experiences that are in our resume, which is great. And it's going to give you different output each time. So we've piloted these questions ahead of time. In a prior test that we did, it gave more specific examples with longer bullet points. So again, just to show like on the day, depending on the tool, the day, it is going to give you different output. So that's always something to keep in mind. And I think this is a great starting point. So Amelia probably knew these things about herself already, that she was a good program manager and great at managing stakeholder relationships. But this is really affirming and might give her some ideas to move forward with her job search. And I am not sure, not reading the full output here, but in our previous iteration, it mentioned that state and local government might be a good fit for Amelia. So to continue with that way of thinking. Our next prompt will be, do you have any examples of state and local government roles that may be a good fit for me? And let's see what it generates. And as you can see, it's populating in real time. It's giving us different titles, duties, different fields that we can consider. And so again, not comprehensive. And ChatGPT and other tools will also sort of prompt what the next questions might be, or if you would like it to explore a concept further. So based on this list, and again, this response is slightly different than when we conducted it before. In a previous iteration, it would also give a section on like why this role would be a good fit for you, and it would pull, from the resume and from the, content that it's finding online, and kind of highlight like, here's why this particular sector or type of role would be an ideal fit for you. And I don't know if it happened this time. It might be getting smarter, but previously when we did this, there was something inaccurate in the information it gave us. So it was promoting state and local government roles. And as a next step, and I don't think it generated that this time, it encouraged us to explore USA Jobs to search for state and local roles. And we know that that is not accurate. That's not true. USA Jobs is only for federal roles. That is not where someone would go to explore state and local roles. So that just shows, again, be careful, do your due diligence, and know that it can be inaccurate and incorrect at times. So next, I'm going to pass to Katy, and we'll keep exploring different roles as we're in this job search phase, and see what AI recommends when we're looking for roles outside of government.
Hey, thanks, Kristen. So this third demonstration is, as she shared, focused on industry ideas. So to get us started, the prompt is going to be, I'm interested in roles in private and nonprofit sectors. Based on my resume, can you recommend general industries and specific employers in the DMV area? Okay, so there's the prompt. That's a smart move. Isn't that nice when validate what you're thinking? So it is affirming that you have marketable skills, which you all absolutely do. So it's starting by giving some general ideas and specific employers, because you gave them a really specific prompt with that DMV area geographical specific detail. So general industries, no surprise with Amelia's resume, you see here emergency and crisis management, human services and refugee and immigrant support, public health and international development, management consulting, program and operations management. And we'll keep going down. And so then it gives you some specifics. So I like this one because it gave you the broad, and then it gives you the actual examples in the area that you provided. So you can see that this goes back to some of the principles that Kristen and I have talked about. This is a really good starting point. So maybe these are places that you already well know because this is steeped in your field, or perhaps when you were in government, you collaborated with some of these organizations, and that's okay. It's nice to have things reinforced. But if you continue to scroll, you can see government contractors and consulting firms, health and human services. I will just share, my best friend worked at USAID and is on the job market and worked specifically in child and maternal health. And obviously folks have been saying, you could do that at the state and local level. You can do that at the state and local level. And that's an option that, of course, she's thinking about. But after doing some prompting in ChatGPT for her job search, she became aware that she might be able to take her skills to aging populations. So like working with a council of aging or with a department of aging, or with nursing homes. And that was not something she had previously considered. And so it actually gave her a brand new idea. And she, whether or not she pursues that, I don't know, but she was actually like really heartened by the fact that she was given an idea that she had not previously considered. Okay, so back to our ChatGPT example and Amelia. So you can see it kind of gives you some next steps. I like the cute little rocket ship. It can suggest job titles and keywords to use in LinkedIn and Indeed searches. It can draft like networking template. It can help you tailor your resume. So it's actually giving you ideas for how else it can help you, which I think is really cool. So there's some really good information here. Again, this is just a starting point, like the example I just gave with my best friend. Um, it might give you a brand new idea. It might give you an aha moment, and that allows you to pursue opportunities that you may not have thought of, or it might reinforce things that you already well know you are qualified for and are seeking. So it's a great starting point. Okay, let's pretend we researched these employers and we're interested in the ICF. We found a role we like there, the Public Assistance Project Manager, Disaster Recovery, and we're willing to relocate to Los Angeles. Let's see if ChatGPT can help us tailor our resume to that job description. All right, so this is our fourth demo where this is how you would tailor a resume. So the prompt is, I want to apply for the attached role. Tailor my resume to the job description, paying special attention to keywords and the order of skills and responsibilities. Please keep my resume to one page. And then I am attaching the ICF position description. Let's see what it gives us. And ideally, we would remove perhaps the phone number and the email with that personal information. But for the sake, and this is a mythical person. Okay, so we see a project summary. See experience, great, awesome. So it's giving a lot of content because Amelia had a lot of experience. And so what I would do now, and sorry, my eyes. So it's offering to draft you a cover letter. It's offering to give you a Word or PDF version of the text above, which is awesome. Again, let's say you want that Word document of what it just generated for you, but that is not what you would save and send to an employer. Instead, what I would personally do is I would download that Word document and then put it side by side with my original resume and start looking at the differences and then doing what we've said. Start pulling some good ideas, some good starting points, yes, that's another way to say that. I really like that. That sounds like something I would say, and start crafting and tailoring your resume and your voice with what it generated as the starting point, as the inspiration, as the way to get through writer's block. At a quick glance, the biggest difference is the professional summary, which is now more tailored to that position description that we entered. I was curious how ChatGPT aligned Amelia's resume, so I asked the following question. For my own knowledge, can you highlight where my resume aligns with this position description? So let's see. It's great you're thinking critically. I just feel great when I'm validated by an AI tool, right? Okay, so here's a breakdown, position alignment. So yes, this is going so quickly. Lead FEMA public assistance program. So, and then they break out, the ICF says lead the development, coordination, and operation of various large, complex FEMA public assistance programs. And then it tells you things you already know, but it's so great to have your talent and your experience reinforced, especially through the lens of a job you're applying to. So here, the tool said at FEMA, you managed emergency management projects, supporting disaster recovery in over 60 communities nationwide. So that is directly aligned to this position. You oversaw lifecycle management of mission critical disaster assistance equipment and programs. This is great. And if we scroll down, it also pulls out another theme, client and stakeholder interface. So again, it pulls out that serves as the direct interface with state and local agencies, including high-level elected and appointed officials, as well as senior program staff. And then it shows you a couple places at FEMA and at ORR where you did similar things. I won't read all of these to you, but you can see it's a really nice starting point. And again, it kind of reinforces for you why you were absolutely a strong and amazing candidate for this position. But then it kind of helps you craft it in your own voice and your own kind of brand, make it your own. I sometimes think of this as your friend kind of like pumping you up, being like, yeah, remember you did that. You have these skills. You have direct experience with things that this organization is looking for. You're a very strong fit for this role. Look, and here this is interesting. So you're a very strong fit for this role. The main gap might be the PMP certification, preferred, not required, and direct PA grant closeout experience, which you have adjacent experience. So it kind of also gives you like, here's something that could come up that you want to be prepared for. Awesome. 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 Okay. All right. So just taking a look next. Um, and I guess I would also say this response can be super helpful for your interview prep as well. So it clearly laid out examples of projects that translate directly to this position's requirements and drew clear lines between your previous experience and what they're seeking. You could also ask ChatGPT, if you were the hiring manager for this role, would I be a good fit? What skills are missing from my resume? The natural next step, of course, is to ask for a cover letter, which the tool already offered help on. So let's see what the platform comes up with. Kristen, do you want to take cover letters?
Yes, and we have lots of great questions coming in the chat. I do want to address a few quickly. So can AI respond to prompts in bullet format? It can. It tends to, I think, favor a bulleted format. You can also ask it to respond with bullets or with a more narrative format. You can ask it to respond with a table or a chart. It really, and this goes into another question, do prompts need to be full sentences? The output is only as good as your prompt. So the more specific you can get, and this is about training the tool, something, if you feel comfortable, that you can consider, like give ChatGPT some of your content, give it, an email or a blog post or anything that you've written, a LinkedIn post that you feel represents accurately, like your cadence, your tone, your style, because you can train it on your voice. And so giving it cover letters that you've written, resumes that you've written is another way for it to pick up on that tone. And you can ask it, like once you've fed it that, in my tone, and then the prompt, see what it gives you. But yes, you can prompt for bullets or not. And I love this question. It is a computer. Do you need to add phrases like please and thank you? I am guilty of this. I used to always say please and thank you. I wanted to be polite to the tool that is helping me. But I did read recently that even just adding please and thank you to a prompt, every word increases how much energy is used, which increases that environmental impact. So I have stopped saying please and thank you to my tool. And I know there are a lot more questions coming in. I love how engaged everyone is. I am going to turn it back over to the demo, and then we'll get to more questions in a bit. So yes, cover letters. Ideally, again, you would already have a cover letter that you have written that then you're going to ask ChatGPT to tailor to the job description. But in our example, we don't have a sample cover letter for Amelia, so we're going to ask ChatGPT to create one from scratch. So please create a cover letter that is tailored to the job description. Keep the tone professional but warm. Do not repeat everything in my resume, because we know that we don't want our cover letter to just be, word for word of what is already on your resume. And make sure to make a connection between my previous work and this role. So it will give us that template. And again, I would consider this a template and not the final product. But it gives us what is a solid starting point for a cover letter. It has, it's the length that you would expect. It has the sections that you would expect. I am going to point out another thing while I can see it here on screen. An M dash, which is that long dash we see in the final paragraph. It's used twice. ChatGPT and other, I think, generative AI tools love to use an M dash. It's very unfortunate because there are many of us who liked using M dashes before generative AI, and now it's sort of become synonymous with a tell, a hallmark of ChatGPT generated content. So just something to keep in mind, especially if the output it is giving you is just riddled with M dashes. Go back in and remove some, but maybe not all of them, because it is becoming a conversation that I hear folks having that they notice in more narrative writing. But yes, I think that this is a solid start. As I mentioned earlier, read it out loud. Does this sound natural? Does this sound like something a human would say? Or do you need to adjust the language, the flow, the tone? You want it to sound like you. And if you're questioning whether or not it does, it's probably a good note to make those edits. All right. So now we're going to talk about interview prep. I know we've had questions come up about interviews specifically. So let's assume that you have applied to that role with ICF. You already had a first round phone interview, and now it's time for a second round panel interview. So AI can help you prepare for interviews by generating common questions for a specific role, can help you with those behavioral interview questions, like tell me about a time when. And then it can also give you sample answers to tough questions. So it can generate both questions you should consider and answers to those questions. So you could try, and this is not specific to the Amelia's example and role, but something like, what are 5 common interview questions for a government analyst interview? Or what is a good way to answer, tell me about a time that you failed? Use it to spark ideas, but then go back and personalize your answers, practice saying them out loud. You want it to sound natural. There are also AI tools that will let you record yourself and then receive feedback. So you're essentially having a mock interview with AI. I have not personally used those, but feel free to try them if you're interested. If that is not your style, I get it. And you can always do a mock interview with a human, with a friend, a mentor. If your career center at your alma mater offers those services. So there are, of course, other options. AI can also help you with your elevator pitch, and that almost always comes up in an interview as tell me about yourself, and then you deliver your pitch. So you can input your background, your goals, your values, a bit more about yourself, on top of your resume, and then ask the tool, can you draft me a 30-second elevator pitch that is confident and approachable and tailored to this role? And just again, tweak it until it sounds natural and like you. And then I like to share an unexpected way that we heard about using AI. This was from a former federal employee that we met at a FedSupport event. And she used AI for a pep talk. I have not done this personally, but she was feeling a bit nervous before an interview, a bit insecure. And so she put her materials and the job description into ChatGPT, and she asked it to pump her up and give her encouragement and remind her why she was qualified and a good fit for this role. And she said it really helped. So we know that that might not work for everyone. We encourage you to have pep talks with humans or pets in your life. But we thought this was a pretty cool use case that really resonated with that person. So for our purposes tonight, we're going to ask ChatGPT. We're letting them know, again, context. I applied to the ICF role. I had a 30-minute phone interview, and now I'm preparing for a 60-minute second round panel interview with 3 to 4 team members, including my potential supervisor. What questions should I be prepared to answer, and what questions should I ask them? So I hope what stands out, there is a lot of context given in that prompt to hopefully set us up for the best response possible. And as it's generating, there's going to be a mix of behavioral and leadership questions. So one thing I enjoy about generative AI, it typically sections and themes out material really well, and it's easy to follow along. I like the way visually that it structures information. So if we can scroll through, there are behavioral questions, technical and situational questions. And as you can see, it is referring back to Amelia's resume. It's asking about specific FEMA work experience. So it's not just making up these questions based on the position description. It's also considering Amelia's resume and how the employer might be connecting her experience and the job. And then what you want to ask them, so many questions, more than you could, possibly get to in a single interview, but a great starting point for you to read through these and prioritize what are most important to you. And I do think it is just a great way to brainstorm solid questions that will help you really, get more information. Remember, interviews go both ways. You are interviewing them as well for fit. So I think that is a great use case. And Katie, I see that you are back. I don't know if you wanted to jump into a question or had an extra comment.
No, I know that our time is coming to an end here, so we'll probably maybe do one more prompt, try to take a question, and then we want to do a quick poll and share more about our career fair next week to make sure you're all plugged into that.
Awesome. Thank you for that time check. Too much content to get through. So lastly, and very quickly, an often forgot about part of the job search and application process is salary negotiation. So this is also an opportunity to use a tool. In our scenario, let's say you interviewed, you got the offer. Amelia has this offer with ICF. They offered her 110,000. The range goes much higher. She was hoping to come in more around 130. And she'll also need to relocate. So let's, prompt ChatGPT to say, like, I was offered this role with ICF. They offered a starting salary of 110,000. I'm hoping for 130 plus relocation. Can you please draft a respectful email countering them, while also affirming, and highlighting my fit for the role, and that I'm enthusiastic about the offer. So I know this is something that can be really tricky for people to find the right tone, to not feel like they're overstepping or potentially risking losing an opportunity. So I think this is just a great way to kind of gut check and get an idea of some language. You can also use this for a phone conversation if you're not able, if it's not an email exchange. And I know we moved through that rather quickly, but I hope that gives just like an introduction to how that could be used in that scenario. And with that, I will pass it over to Katie just to sort of close us out and do our ending poll.
Yeah, so I think I can take probably one more question. So I did see some folks have flagged that interviews are being conducted via AI, meaning maybe your first round interview is not with a human, but you log on and it is conducted with an AI tool. So that is becoming more common. It can feel really new. It can feel uncomfortable. My really quick advice, and there's some resources online as well, is I would treat it like any other interview. Of course, you would prepare, maybe with AI tools, but hopefully with a human as well, whether it's a trusted mentor, career advisor, or whatnot. I would dress and prepare it's online, like your background, making sure it's free of distraction or blurred out, in a place where you can really focus and perform. Having a notebook in front of you so you can jot down any notes, and just to the best of your ability, recognizing that it may have some discomfort because it is new, treating it like any other interview. Kristen, did you want to grab one more question? Otherwise, we can go to our last couple slides.
Yep. I did want to share a tip that someone put in the chat, which I think is great. They have used ChatGPT to help with preparing an ATS, or applicant tracking system friendly resume. And they used that prompt to make sure their materials were ATS friendly, and said it was really helpful in identifying how their CV had some formatting inconsistencies that they were able to then, I'm assuming, correct before submitting. So that is a great use case. And then is there any way to find out how much energy is being used? I heard anecdotally that each question or prompt asked equals one bottle of water. I don't know if that is true, so fact check me. But that is helpful. It's like a visual way for me to think about that.
And I think we probably need to transition to our slides. So Sam, if you could get our last slide pulled up. But I just want to share and reinforce our thanks to you for being here tonight. But remember, talk to mentors, ask career advisors to review your resume, conduct informational interviews with humans, join networking events and webinars like this one. And remember, most successful job searches are never 100% digital. They're relational. So be sure you're networking. And with that, we have an opportunity to engage with real humans next week. So we hope to see you all at our Career Expo for current and former feds. That's next Thursday. It runs from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. This QR code, and we'll also drop in the chat to register. It's totally free for feds and former feds, and it features nationwide opportunities across various fields. So if you came to our May 15th career fair, that was state and local government. It was a huge success. But it's suitable for all experience levels, and it is totally virtual. So we hope to see you there. We thank you for being here tonight. We hope that you are signed up for FedSupport updates. Please scan the QR code on the next slide. If not, sorry that we did not get to all of your questions. And with that, we'd love just 30 more seconds of your time to generate a quick poll. So Sam is going to initiate that poll. Your responses are totally anonymous and will be used to inform future sessions. And genuinely, we use the feedback to figure out our content and what we're delivering to you all. So please take that poll. I know we're 1 minute over time. I thank you all for being here this evening. I know everyone is busy, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us and to learn more about how to use AI in your career search. Please keep those topics coming. Please take that poll that Sam has generated, and we'll try to get to them in upcoming events and webinars. Keep going to fedsupport.org and stay plugged in. And don't forget, it's not just webinars. We have that career fair, we have FAQs, we have blogs and links to additional resources. And I'll just close for all of the federal employees out there. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your service to our country. You are so incredibly important to our democracy, and we value you so much. So just thank you for your service and have a wonderful evening.